10 Worst Countries to Live in Europe. 1. Russia. There's no mystery about what Russia is today and why it landed in this spot. Global conflicts aside, we'll admit that the European cities of Russia have their charms. Moscow and St. Petersburg offer much in the way of history and culture, but a tense political situation and brutal weather make the country a hard sell on the whole. Plus, as the US Embassy puts it bluntly, the Russian government maintains a restrictive and complicated visa regime for foreigners who visit. 2. Belarus. Easily the worst of the former Soviet republics, this place is ruled by a dictator and photography is forbidden everywhere you'd want to take a picture. If you've had a few drinks you can forget about taking the subway in Minsk. Security is known to keep people who seem at all intoxicated off the trains. Oh, and Minsk has been named the worst city in all of Europe. If you value freedom and human rights, go literally anywhere else. 3. Monaco. This European city-state is small to the point of absurdity at 499 acres, it's roughly the size of New York City's Central Park. And yet, despite its micro size, it manages to have a ton of ungodly rich people living here, with 32% of the population made up of millionaires. This ensures plenty of outrageous behavior from trust fund kids who seem to think the rules don't apply to them, plus over-the-top events like the Monaco Yacht Show that are essentially inaccessible to anyone who's not fabulously loaded. That's fine. The uber-rich can have their gold-plated toilet seats and 2 kilometers of French Riviera. We'll go somewhere we can actually afford to have a good time in. 4. Moldova. We feel sorry for Moldova, as it's easily Europe's most forgotten country. With fewer than 150,000 annual visitors, it's one of the least visited nations in the world. Its people are also among the least happy on earth, in part because the country hasn't recovered well from Soviet rule. Have any of us really? Moldova is something of a living time capsule of that period, in fact. Which, if you're into that, you do you. 5. Iceland. We get it, Iceland, you're pretty. You have strange geographical anomalies, weird lights appear in your skies at various times of the year, your residents are friendly to a fault, and your hotels are made of ice. But a lot of your cool features come with major downsides. Sure, the northern lights are amazing, but they're extremely elusive, and the trade-off is near total darkness for months on end. Your unique natural beauty has made you extremely over-touristed, which in turn is making you less beautiful. And it turns out sleeping in an ice hotel, while awesome for Insta shots, is in no way comfortable. Because, well, it involves sleeping on ice. Also, we just think the whole layover offer is so pathetic and wastes time we'd rather be spending in the less icy parts of Europe. 6. Malta. It's small and full of history. It's got a little bit of Italian flavor and some influence from northern Africa. It's a Mediterranean archipelago. What could possibly go wrong? A lot, it turns out. The small islands that comprise Malta are overcrowded with tourists and residents. The beaches, the destination's main draw, are particularly swarmed with crowds. And worst of all, the food is generic and chain-heavy. 7. Montenegro. The coolest part about this small Balkan country is how weirdly tall everyone is. The average height is more than 6 feet. Otherwise, Montenegro is mostly known for its extremely aggressive drivers, who have rightfully been described as insane. Also, according to TripAdvisor, the country's architecture is not, in the main, of an imaginative or attractive style. Translation: it's pretty ugly. 8. Macedonia. Yugoslavia left a bunch of countries in its path of destruction in the 1990s when it was broken up during a period of extreme political upheaval. And perhaps no nation is worse off now than North Macedonia, which you've never heard of and will never visit. Among many lingering issues, corruption is an enduring issue here, and it's one of the most polluted countries in Europe. That said, the nation is working hard to improve. It's even in talks to join the EU, so maybe one day in the distant future, it will land on some bucket lists. Hey, stranger things have happened. 9. Liechtenstein. This landlocked microstate between Austria and Switzerland is the birthplace of the greatest pop artist of all time, Roy Lichtenstein. Actually, that's not true at all. Their names aren't even spelled the same. Nothing noteworthy has ever happened in Liechtenstein, a country routinely described as straight-up boring, which is why you'll forget it as fast as you read this. 10. UK. What's wrong with the UK, you're wondering? Well, where do we even begin? We actually wonder why anyone would want to visit this place, let alone live there. The food is drab, and the weather is worse. They serve beer at room temp. The museums are free, but they stole the art from cultures with far superior artists. Oh, and a certain current political situation has the country in a state of complete and utter disarray. There's much for history buffs to love, we have to give it that, but that's true in tons of European countries that also have a lot more good stuff going on. Thank you very much for watching our video. If you like it, give it like, and if you want more interesting videos like this, don't hesitate to subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon.